Every AI project starts the same way, with a sentence like this: vague, confident, and completely useless until someone turns it into something buildable. That someone is a business analyst. This is what that job actually looks like week by week on a real AI agent project. From brief to build, how a business analyst delivers an AI agent project. We'll trace the whole route, station by station. We'll follow one real example throughout, an AI research assistant agent. It reads long policy documents, technical manuals, and research papers, then answers questions about them using a multi-agent AI pipeline. The biggest mistake junior consultants make is jumping straight to solutioning. Someone says AI, and suddenly they're Googling LangChain frameworks. Stop. Who actually has this problem? Students, researchers, policy analysts, and engineers. Four very different user groups who can't all be designed for the same way. What does failure look like today? Are people Control-F-I-N-G 400-page PDFs? Hiring interns to summarize documents? Understanding current failure defines success. What would good look like to the client? Not what you think is good. What they consider a successful outcome. You have to ask. Week 1 is almost entirely people, not paper. Your first week is conversations with your delivery lead, the client sponsor, and ideally actual end users. Notice legal and compliance are on this list. On any AI project touching policy documents, data privacy is a landmine. You surface that conversation in week 1, not week 8. Your discovery conversations have one goal: understand the gap between where the client is today and where they need to be. Ask open questions. Don't propose solutions yet. After discovery, you translate everything into structured requirements, your most important artifact on the project. Functional requirements describe what the system must do. Non-functional requirements describe how well it must do it. Here's a subtle skill that takes time: writing requirements you can actually test. The system should be accurate is a wish. A measurable pass/fail bar. That's a requirement you can build and verify against. Requirements also have a shadow side, out-of-scope statements. What a client asks in week 6, can it also search Google? You point to this signed document. Here's something many new BAs miss. You don't hand the dev team a requirements document. You hand them a product backlog made of user stories. Every functional requirement becomes one or more stories. For this project, the backlog includes stories like these, one per functional requirement, each carrying acceptance criteria that become the developer's definition of done. This is the handshake moment between BA work and development work. Discovery becomes requirements. Requirements become stories. Stories get prioritized, and Sprint 1 pulls them in and builds. Here's where new BAs get confused about their role. Technical architecture is not your job. That's the solutions architect's domain. Your job is to describe the system in business terms. This is a process flow, no vector databases, no LangChain. It shows who does what, in what order, and what happens when the answer isn't in the document. You also produce a tool inventory, what tools the system needs in business language, without specifying how they're built. Here's a skill that didn't exist in BA job descriptions 5 years ago: prompt documentation. On an AI agent project, prompts are effectively the system's business rules. The BA writes the checklist. The engineer turns it into a prompt. That's the collaboration. Business rules translated into AI instructions. The most important prompt reflects a deliberate product decision. Being honest is more important than being helpful. The system will refuse to answer rather than guess. That's a business decision, not a technical one. You can't hand a system to a client without defining what done looks like. You write acceptance criteria for every agent, then build a test matrix. The anti-hallucination tests, TC02 and TC03, are the most important. They catch the system behaving in ways the client would find unacceptable in production. During build, your role shifts. You're not writing code. Your job is answering the dev team's questions, checking outputs against your criteria, and translating progress into business language. Every new feature mid-sprint goes through scope assessment, effort estimate, and sign-off. It does not just get added to the sprint. User acceptance testing is the phase most junior BAs underestimate. It's your last chance to find the gap between what you built and what users actually need before the client pays for it. You document these gaps in a UAT feedback log, triage by severity, and resolve before go-live. Before go-live, you produce two documents, a plain language user guide and a handover document for the client's team. After go-live, you track KPIs. Are users getting answers faster? Is the information not found rate dropping? A good consultant stays engaged long enough to know whether the system is working. Everything so far gets the system built, but there's a second track running underneath every single week. Deliverables that exist to govern and protect the project, not to build the system. The business case justifies the project before week one even starts. The risk register tracks things like hallucination causing a bad policy decision. The RTM proves everything asked for was built and tested. Enterprise clients often refuse to sign off without one. The decision log is your audit trail because verbal agreements disappear. Senior BAs are judged as much on this second column as the first. It's the layer new BAs aren't taught formally and encounter for the first time mid-project, wondering why nobody mentioned it. The project we just walked through is technically complex: AI agents, vector databases, multi-step reasoning. But as a BA, you didn't build any of that. What you did was everything that made the technical work matter. Without this, the best technical team in the world builds the wrong thing, on time, under budget, and completely useless to the client. The AI era hasn't changed this job. It's made it more important. Someone has to make sure it doesn't happen confidently, at scale, and in plain English. That someone is you. Thanks for watching From Brief to Build. Subscribe and hit the bell for more content on business analysis, AI projects, and the skills that bridge the two. Drop a comment. I'd love to hear what you think is the hardest part of being a BA on an AI project.